Brad Doty, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. You are the existing city councilman for the city of Caldwell, correct?
That's correct. I am currently the city council president.
And you are running for mayor.
I'm running for mayor.
I don't live in Caldwell. I like a lot of things about it. There's been turmoil there, as with all cities. And I really don't like to focus on that predominantly, but I did want to offer you an opportunity, if you wanted to address any of the happenings from Caldwell.
Sure. I would just say that at any time you're running a city of our size, especially with the unprecedented growth that we have, there's going to be certainly opportunities, right, for better leadership, better communication. And so I think as we struggle through all those coming together to, I guess, unite at one time, that we certainly can be more productive in certain areas to make our city more beneficial for everyone.
Talk to me about that. How do we make Caldwell better for everyone?
Well, I think there's three. First, we have to tear down the silos that we have, in my opinion. And with that comes, again, those opportunities with leadership, those opportunities with communication and teamwork. It seems like to me as a city council member, my perception is we're doing a lot of siloed work, not a lot of communication from the mayor's office with the council. I came from a background that is from law enforcement, from the state police, the Idaho State Police. And certainly we don't want Caldwell to be paramilitaristic. However, those leadership skills that I've learned there certainly could benefit in numerous areas within the city.
Okay, so we have a lot of aspects of Caldwell, right? We have downtown development, economic and physical development. We have law enforcement, obviously. Let's start with law enforcement. What's the state of law enforcement? What do you think you could bring to it?
Well, certainly I come with a background of 29 years in law enforcement experience. I think the difference is that when you become a mayor, to realize that you are not the chief of police, right? So that would certainly be in my wheelhouse. I think the goal of a strong leader for any department, not just the police department, but you set your goals and then you let those leaders set their objectives to accomplish those goals. If you're setting the goals and also making the objectives, then we get into the word that we all know, which is micromanagement.
Gotcha.
I think you have to use data before you make blanket statements about what's going on. Like right now, our police department, if you're going to look at the stats, crashes are down, citations are up, right? So there's been some comments about not enough traffic citations and of course, with increased traffic becomes more increased calls about bad driving habits is a good way to put that. But if you truly look at the stats and what has occurred over the last couple of years, like I said, currently right now, traffic crashes are down, citations are up, and crime in general is down.
Gotcha. So bottom line is you're saying, hey, look, Chief of Police Rex Ingram or whoever is there.
Whoever it is.
Bottom line is you're like, look, we need to improve in these metrics or we need to hold steady in these metrics. And however you need to do that, you're the guy to do that. So go do that.
Sure.
And, again, not, hey, this is how you have to do it, but look, get after it. And again, not micromanage him or, quarterback him every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that once you set those goals, right, and those should be based on, like I mentioned before, teamwork. So with discussions with the council, what direction would they like to go and what would they like to see it attack, so to speak. So as my experience has shown me with law enforcement, you can chase your tail a lot, right? So if you're having a ton of crashes in one area, we can certainly saturate that area with police officers, but that usually means another fire pops up somewhere else, right? So I certainly would set the goals using, again, the wishes of the council and then turning that over to the department heads. But not only just law enforcement, right, but any department head that's there. If these are the goals that we're trying to accomplish through the mayor's office and through the council, then of course, if you trust your leadership, which they are in those positions because I do trust them.
Sure.
Because if we didn't, we'd be having a different conversation, right? So you give them the goals that we're trying to accomplish and let those leaders accomplish those goals. It's no different. And again, maybe that's just because that's my training and experience from the state police. But when you're in executive leadership and you're far removed from the road, you certainly don't want to be diving in there when you haven't been out there yourself in quite some time, coordinating those events, right? So in my opinion, you set the goals you want to accomplish and let your leaders set the objectives to accomplish those goals.
Gotcha. With regard to development, okay, let's just focus on residential first. The entire Treasure Valley in Caldwell in particular, fantastic place, really developing, more people moving there. Talk to me about what can be done here, because the number one, like, I don't know anybody who's super happy that, things are growing. And this is any city or any area you want. Nobody's happy that there's more development. The question becomes, how can we maintain the quality of life? How can we maintain the quality of services and maintain the culture with the growth? So one, do you think that there's a way to mitigate or decrease growth, or just kind of manage it as we go? And two, with whatever growth we end up having, or with whatever growth you end up having, how do you maintain the quality of life and the culture?
Yeah, so I can say first thing is we have to do it within the confines of the law, right? So we have to take the emotion out of it. Though sometimes we don't like the amount of travel it adds, right? People used to drive for 5 minutes. Now they have to drive for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. With increased people in your neighborhood, some people like it to be more private, right? So with the confines of the law, we certainly have to do that. What I would say in regards to our area, keeping up with the culture and the farmland, is I am absolutely for infilling the city, correct? I do believe in private property rights, clearly, meaning other people can do with their land with what they wish to do with their land, again, within the confines of the comp plan and the laws that are in place currently. However, sometimes our struggle is when we go to infill the city, we also don't want houses to be too close to each other, right? Well, my issue, though, is when I was a young trooper, I use this example a lot, not a lot of money in the bank account, right? And so when I was stationed in Moscow, Idaho, my neighbor was 8 feet from me. I didn't have a lawn, nothing to take care of, but that's what I could afford to do. So I think that sometimes we have to think outside the box, though currently I would not like to live that way now.
Right.
It certainly could give a start to folks. So I think we have to be thinking about that no, is it ideal that you want to live 8 feet from your neighbor and have no, not have a lawn to take care of, but maybe eliminating those things and not giving as much land or buying as much land could certainly save on the price of homes, because as we know, the price of the homes just keep going up and up. Clearly they fluctuate. Sometimes they drop, but they're way more than when I was buying my first home. That's for sure.
There have been other cities that have taken steps to preserve quality of life, like Middleton, right? They had an ordinance that related as it pertained to school districts and populations within school districts.
Yes.
And, essentially if an area where a developer wanted to add homes to had a feeder public elementary school or school in general that was overpopulation a certain degree, they weren't allowed to build there. And that preserved the existing quality of life that, those families and those kids already had. Do you think that something like that would be appropriate for Caldwell?
I think you're talking about mitigation fees, right? So we have researched that a bit in the city of Caldwell. I have to also consider the liability issue. So though Middleton may have had success with that, I can't speak how that turned out in Middleton. It sounds like they did, at least that's what I hear. The concern from our attorneys at the time was the liability issue of doing that, meaning it hadn't been tested in court. Attorneys could argue both sides, whether they were legal or not, or whether they would stand up in court. What I would say, though, is there seemed to be some movement on that, even within the development community, right? So I think the best thing is, instead of having the legislature take control of that and trying to determine if that fits or not, or all of us waiting till it goes to litigation, the developers, I think, could come together and help us resolve this issue, meaning they could have some control and some buy-in to it. I have heard from developers that, and I want to clarify, I'm not sure which way is right, but I have heard from some developers, if they knew the exact price of what that might be per door versus, an obscure number of square feet and it's $5 a square foot, that there may be some movement there. So I guess what I'd like to say is we need more research and maybe some guidance from the state, whether or not the code that is referenced for mitigation fees has merit or not. I will just tell you, so far from our legal counsel, they are worried about the liability of enforcing that.
Gotcha.
Or putting that in place.
Yeah, I can't. Councilman Dave Murray from Middleton came on quite a bit ago, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was a mitigation. And again, we don't have to go dive down it, but I think the idea was just like, no, look, if the schools are at this level, it's not a mitigation fee question, because I believe CBH Homes had actually donated a lot. They had land that would work for the Middleton School District to build another school, and then they even offered to bring utilities to it. But Middleton couldn't pass a bond to build the new school, so CBH Homes, even though they have offered this land, they still can't start building, because it's not a question of like, okay, I'll just pay you more money. It's like, no. Functionally, they need this thing. But again, we don't have to dive down like a rabbit hole in what Middleton's doing, obviously.
Well, yeah, and I don't mind, and I think that, like I said, had our advice been different, I might have a different opinion of that. But I have to watch out for the liability for the city, right? We have seen cities lately in Idaho be sued for millions and millions of dollars. If our legal counsel had a different opinion about that law, then maybe I may have a different opinion of it. And I'm not saying that that opinion is right or wrong. What I am saying is I'm weighing the liability of that issue and taking the legal counsel that's been provided.
Gotcha. And to be clear, just correct me if I'm wrong, but you cannot stop. You can't just say no more homes. Like, we don't leave. You can put a moratorium on it for like 6 months, an emergency kind of action, which is, hey, we need to stop all growth for 6 months to do whatever. But you can't do that indefinitely. Like, the 6 months comes and it goes. It's like, okay, party on, like, here we go. You can't just arbitrarily say, hey, the city council doesn't want this place to grow anymore, correct?
You certainly cannot do it arbitrarily based on my understanding. And then it's 90 days with an additional 90 days, which is the 6 months you're referring to. And also reading the code, and again, my understanding of it is something has to be in peril. And it's an older word that's not used very much anymore, but it certainly is still in the codes, the word peril. And so describing what's in peril, meaning it can't be arbitrary, right? And then my understanding is from the case law that you must work, meaning the city must work on whatever is in peril.
Right.
Short of an example that they give is if we have an abundance of water and now something's going to flood, we can certainly say there's a moratorium in front of that riverbank or whatever. We don't want you building there right now.
Right. And we got to go we got to get banks built up.
We've got to figure out what's going on with this and why it's leaking, right?
Right.
But because that could cause peril if the water starts running a different direction than we're accustomed to.
Sure.
Short of that, even if you do a 90-day moratorium, I think it cannot be arbitrary. It must be something in peril, and the city must work on whatever that is. And if you don't do that, I think you're absolutely right on your analysis, which is then the clock ends and you're right back to where you were.
Right.
In addition to that, I think it's key to note that even unless the moratorium, and then you have to define an area, right? So I want to make sure I get that point out. You have to define an area. So are we going to say the whole city? The whole city, no, it can't grow anywhere in the city. I think without something being in peril, that's also very detrimental to all the people that the developers employ, right? And that isn't only the people working on the homes there, it's also in our stores that are selling the equipment, the boards, the nails, all of that, right? And so it can be very detrimental to a community, bigger than I think what we sometimes focus on, which is we just don't want any more houses.
God, yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, it's really complex.
It is.
It's a complex issue.
And it's everywhere, right? And I think if someone could figure out how to do it perfectly, we would know that idea would already be out there, right? And it is complicated and it's difficult. I'm very much in support of the comp plan, and we spend a lot of money on that comp plan, right? And again, staying within our boundaries of the city is great, and that we should focus on that. However, sometimes here's another issue that sometimes comes up that's a hard struggle for me. And that is we have people with agricultural land.
Sure.
And for years and years and years, it went generation by generation by generation. What I'm learning is that oftentimes now there is no one else to pass on the farm ground or the agricultural ground to, right? We have had people come to city council, family members, and say, please let us sell this farm ground. We don't live here. We're the children that are left. Right. We don't want it. We don't live here, right? Or what can we do? Or you have someone, a farmer that does own the land, that says, my children don't live here.
Right.
I'm ready to retire. Please let us sell this farm ground, right?
For highest and best use.
Well,
Right.
clearly selling it to a developer, he or she will make the most money versus selling it to another farmer, correct? Right. And so those are the struggles. So it's not just one thing or the other, or we're building too fast, or private property rights. Each issue can bring its own problems or concerns, for sure.
Man, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. The issue with farmers, it was something that I got introduced to. Obviously, I didn't grow up here and I didn't understand the nature of it, but the idea that it's like, no, for a lot of these people, like this is their retirement and they work to this, like I would work a business, like, build a business and want to sell the business. They worked the land, took care of the land, profited from the land, and they want to sell the land now. And, all these great things have happened with development and the area has been discovered. It's not that it's undesirable land. It's like, here we go. Right. The idea that, the surrounding areas are like, no, it's got to stay farmland. Man, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one, right? Especially if you've owned a home for years and years and you've had a great view, or you're able to use that land
for whatever.
In the off season. And now you can't, right? Because it's sold and now it'll be developed. So I do understand the frustrations and I hear the frustrations, but private property rights get involved. Why shouldn't the owner of that land be able to sell it, right? And then how much can we control what's done there, which is, of course, governed by law with comp plans, right? We have to have a plan. We cannot just base it off of feelings. Right. And not only that, when you're investing in that area, right? Whether it's a developer or any of us, we want to know what can we do with this land.
Tell me what the rules are. Right. Tell me what the rules are. Don't tell me whichever cup of coffee I had that day.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if the goalpost is moving all the time just based on council and even different councils, right? They change every couple of years, or they could.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have a comp plan and you have to have some sort of idea of what can be done with the land that surrounds the city.
That's a whole criticism of tax code adjustments on presidential administrations, right? That it's like every time somebody, if you switch parties, right, you have a Democratic leaning tax code and a Republican leaning tax code. And I had a buddy that currently works for EY. He's like a big senior partner, and he's like, if they just left it alone. Just don't even try to improve it. Don't make it better. Don't make it worse. Just if you just left it alone for like 10 years, we would be far better off, because then we could plan 10 years out. But instead, it's like every couple years, it's like, what's it going to be? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like we could do this or we could do this. And you always end up with inefficient planning because you're hedging your bets against one way or another. And you might be right. It could have been worse, but it certainly could have been better. So yeah, I understand 100%.
And I think you're spot on with that. Clearly the national politics is a little out of my wheelhouse, but I think referring to the comp plan for sure, right? There can be some variances and some deviations, meaning it's hard to make everything fit into one box, right? However, if that's what the plan says, in my opinion, you got to have a pretty good reason to change that. If we've spent all this money and this council came in and agreed to spend more money because there had been so many waivers and variances, right, and exceptions to the rules, that now we've established a plan of how the city should be laid out. And so I certainly would like to stay with that plan, much under the idea of what you just said. How do we know if the plan will work if we just change it from day one? So
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let's talk about downtown development.
Sure.
We have the hotel, we have parking, we have a lot of those things. Talk to me about these projects.
In regards to the hotel that's out by the...
Yeah.
Sure. So I was in support of the hotel. I think that there's a lot of active groups out there. So you get the College of Idaho, you have the rodeo grounds, and you have the fairgrounds.
Sure.
So all three entities trying to figure that out with the hotel being next door.
Sure.
I do understand that for years and years and years that was a dirt lot, and that some people are very attached to that. However, when we talk about where people can stay in Caldwell and the leakage that goes outside of Caldwell all of the time, right? And it's sad as a counselor that I don't have friends and family that visit me stay in Caldwell. And I won't get into why that is, but they don't stay at any of the hotels in Caldwell. And so Building that there, I think, is going to certainly help all three of those entities, as well as keep some of the leakage from heading to Napa or even Boise, Meridian. It seems like people were leaving our events to head to their hotels, right? And they were not staying in Caldwell. So the location has been argued of where that's at. That could be a fair argument. I know that we did not give, one of the things I often hear is we gave the whole lot to the hotel. Well, one, we didn't give it to them, but two, they do pay a lease for that. And three, a third of that lot, approximately a third, was left at the request of the county fair to keep it dirt. Right?
Right.
So we've kept that dirt. We've tried to cooperate with all three entities. We've developed a parking plan out there that covers all of our blank spaces where we just had open space. Those will continue to improve on those to make those parking experiences better. And our children do not have to unload their animals, across the railroad tracks or walking across the road. There are certainly alternatives to that are set up very well by those in charge of that. So,
Gotcha.
So I think the hotel is beneficial. I think that you will see more hotels to come. And again, I think that it will help Caldwell thrive, meaning keeping our tax dollars within Caldwell as well as the expendable income that comes with people staying in hotels.
I dig.
Parking?
Yeah.
You want me to go on to parking?
Yeah,
now?
let's go on to parking. And because again, the parking, I don't live in Caldwell. I have not lived these issues, but people have said a lot, like the parking meters and parking downtown, this is a huge problem. And then, it's like one thing was said, what's interesting? Most of the concerns that I've heard voiced from people, they're like, look, man, it's not even necessarily like the target. It's the process of getting to the target. It's the process of arriving at the final conclusion. That's what people are most worried about. And I think with the parking meters, somebody told me as well, they're like, we understood it to be this, and then it turned out to be this, and then it turned out to be that. So it's kind of like, what? Just talk to me about them.
Well, as I said, those opportunities to communicate better and have better leadership are certainly there. I would have to agree with whoever said that to you. Sometimes even I was shocked. I think that the rollout did not go well. The app didn't work. We had some signage up that indicated that cars would be towed to Boise. The machines didn't work properly. Myself included, trying them all out. So I think the rollout was terrible. Let me tell you a little bit of how we got there, because the parking meters did have support in the beginning from several counselors. At the time, there was a lot of talk about a parking garage. Parking garages can be anywhere from $20 to $40 million, depending on how fancy you want to make them. So some of the ideas were, if we put in parking meters, that it wouldn't just be on the backs of the Caldwell taxpayer, meaning this parking garage, right? That anyone coming to visit would pay the parking meter no matter where you're from. That money would be dedicated to parking. It wouldn't go anywhere else.
Sure.
That was my understanding, and I believe that's the way it was set up, is that money goes to parking. And then you either enter a private-public partnership, or the city takes it on, if we can, in order to build this parking structure. Without another source of income, the only way for the city to build a parking garage is to ask the taxpayers to tax themselves. So that's where the support came from, was that we could spread this parking meter issue or payment out to a multitude of people, whoever visited town, use that money to help build this parking garage to make more parking, right?
So the idea was to generate revenue through the parking meters towards a parking garage.
Yeah.
Essentially have like a big piggy bank.
Yeah, I believe we didn't make it quite that specific. I think it was just more towards parking, but it was definitely dedicated towards solving parking in downtown.
Got it. Okay.
And then, of course, with the rollout of that, and then, again, there was support for that from the council. And then we learned that an agreement may have been made outside of the council's knowledge. And once that agreement was made outside the council's knowledge, then the support fell off from the parking meter. So,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like, what was the agreement? Like, what happened?
Well, right now, I think it's probably best that I don't get into that now.
Okay, totally fine.
Simply because...
but it just changed, whatever the agreement was that was done outside of the purview of the council, changed the benefit that Caldwell would receive.
I would agree with that statement. And at this current time, from what I know, that's probably where I should leave that statement.
Understood. Okay. So bottom line is like, we take a lot of shots, right?
Correct.
In our personal and professional lives. And this one initially appeared to have the right direction, but the farther down the tracks it went, the worse it became.
I would agree with that statement. Like I said, when the rollout came, the meters didn't quite function properly. The app didn't function properly. Training and education, again, trying to give that opportunity to those that roll that out, right? So your council sets the policy and the executive officer tries to put those in place. And there was lots of guidance given to those that would be rolling that out, and it didn't seem to be followed very well. So I think that was a compounding factor on top of that, as well as I do not think they worked as we expected them to.
Gotcha. So essentially you got new information.
Absolutely.
And you know what's funny? Somebody sent me this this tweet the other day. I don't know if it's called an X now, whatever. But they sent me a screenshot, and it was essentially this person saying, never buy solar panels. And then it went into like, I was supposed to get $8,000 back in a tax credit. I didn't get that $8,000. And I don't know if this person got like $7,000 or zero or whatever. It's like, I was supposed to get this. They were supposed to generate this much power. They didn't, all the way down, never buy solar panels. And what was interesting to me, it's like, okay, whose fault is this? Right? Because I was looking at it, it's like, this is like somebody getting really mad at a car. They're like, the used car salesman told me all of these things.
Right. Never
buy a car. And it's like, okay, but this is what the expert, the presumed expert in this particular product was articulating to you. So it's kind of like, you get mad. I could understand somebody getting mad. It's like solar panels are such a ripoff. It's like, well, who helped you kind of define your worldview on how these solar panels would function? That's the problem. Right. The solar panels did nothing wrong. They just, you thought it would be something else. And again, when talking about the parking meter stuff, it's like, okay, look, if we all thought one thing and we were all told one thing, and then we got new information later on and it became bad. It's like, yeah, man, if we had knew that stuff in the beginning, maybe we wouldn't have gone for it. But like what we knew at the beginning sounded really good at the beginning.
Yes. And I would agree with that statement. And then as things changed along, you could tell the support from the council fell away from the parking meters. And as a result, the parking meters were taken out.
Gotcha. Yeah. Talk to me about economic growth downtown. Right. Okay. Because Caldwell, obviously situated right next to Nampa and Middleton and everything. Caldwell has a great economic spot, right? Like you have Indian Creek Plaza, and people work really, really hard to throw events, to be a hub for activity, both economic and cultural. How do you keep building on that? So, Caldwell continues to become a destination.
Yes. And exactly. People before me made it that way, right? That's the way we want it. And sometimes we hear how successful it is, right? Because of all the people coming to Caldwell. So what the council has approved is there's a gentleman named Roger Brooks who helped with the project downtown with the plaza and our city as it grew, remembering Caldwell from 2012 to what it is now, right? He helped develop that and is a professional in that area. So recently the council had approved to hire him back again with a few of our citizens that also donated money. We've hired him back to prepare his next report of the direction that the city should go. So with all the data that he collects from the citizens and how well the first plan went, I would leave it to him as the expert. So we are anxious. I will tell you this, we're anxious for his report. We want to see what his ideas are. Again, hiring a company like that can talk to all aspects, citizens, businesses, and visitors to see what do people want in the city of Caldwell, which is what he specializes in. So I'm excited to see his plan. So I would tell you that plan is coming. I haven't seen it yet, or I would certainly share that with you. But I am excited, as you can probably tell, about what that plan is going to show in the direction Caldwell should go in the next 5-year plan.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
the state of Idaho in the last legislative session formed this thing called a speed council. Are you familiar with this?
A speed council?
Speed council. And again, it doesn't pertain directly to Caldwell, right? So don't worry about that. But the speed council essentially recognized, okay, look, we need things like power generation and resource harvesting and whatnot more. Like, we have these needs in Idaho, and we also have resources that companies would like to come in to engage in and harvesting. And the problem is, obviously, you have a lot of red tape around that. And so the Speed Council was designed to essentially figure out, like, okay, can we streamline, like, if we need test X done, but we need test X done for like 3 different agencies, can we get the 3 different agencies together and say, hey, we're only going to have this done once, everybody gets a copy of it, instead of saying, like, this is test X for company or agency 1, here's another one for agency 2. But so streamlining that, and that's hopefully setting up a more fertile ground for more development within the energy and resource sector, right? Do you think there are improvements or streamlined modifications or efficiencies that can be gained out of the Caldwell planning and zoning to create a more fertile or development friendly environment for businesses downtown? Like, if you have better locations or easier mechanisms for building, right? More commercial or, mixed use properties, more areas for businesses to come in, things of that nature. Is there anything that you think should be done?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement, and I think you should listen to those that are having to go through that process, whether it's the developers, but we also have to listen to our city side to make sure that we're following all the rules and regulations that they need to follow. I wouldn't be opposed to combining services as long as it's on the same piece of ground, right? We're kind of getting out of my wheelhouse as to how far is that sample taken from this piece of property where it would legitimize the other piece of property. So we're kind of outside my wheelhouse there, but I would say that if there are multiple properties together and that they would fall within the regulation, meaning you only have to take one soil sample for 20 acres, then I think that is something we should look at, right? Whether it's combining services at the city or combining services to help make our businesses grow. Businesses, as you know, I'm for business. They certainly offset the cost of the home, right? So businesses, just rough numbers, pay 20% in tax. Most homeowners pay about 8% in tax. Again, just using rough numbers. So you need businesses for your city to grow. And I think anytime we can improve on those processes, certainly not skipping any rules or regulations that we should. However, we should also look at rules and regulations and see which are obsolete anymore, that don't even apply. I think the state of Idaho has done good with that, reducing the regulation. And again, that I don't work at the state of Idaho. I work at the city of Caldwell. So I certainly would want to make sure that those are followed. But certainly we need to be looking to see which ones are obsolete.
The city of Caldwell does not, they are Canyon County Highway District, correct? You guys don't deal with your streets?
We do.
Oh, we do?
So it's not like Ada at all. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so we have the Canyon County Highway District and the city of Caldwell both. And then intermixed in there, of course, is Nampa as well. And Idaho ITD, right? Yeah. Idaho Transportation Division.
Talk to me about your streets. I mean, obviously growth, the number one problem, obviously, that most people experience with growth is traffic, right? So are there possibilities to improve upon that to help ease the, impact on a daily life of growth?
Well, I think it's probably like anywhere. There's construction going on everywhere in Caldwell, right? And sometimes I understand the frustration because when you have that many entities trying to pull permits and replace their section of road, so to speak, sometimes those permits can conflict with each other, meaning we finally get the permit pulled, we're moving forward. And sometimes that can cause quite a bind in your traffic, especially if ITD has a permit somewhere and we have a permit and we happen to be working in those areas at the same time, even though it was never planned that way. So I think the planning of that certainly would help better. What I don't know always is that we can help it, meaning if for the state, if the federal government says, okay, you are now approved, you have time windows, restraints on when the money can be spent, and sometimes it's go, 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 and sometimes it's wait, right? And I think sometimes when all of those come together, it's unfortunate, but sometimes both projects have to be going on at the same time. In regards to impact fees pay for those road improvements. Certainly we have not been collecting impact fees since the beginning of time. So normally you are playing catch up, meaning the impact fees come in and then you schedule the construction that's happening, right? And with the unprecedented growth on top of needing new infrastructure, I will tell you, for the city of Caldwell, we have spent millions of dollars on roads every year and hundreds of thousands of dollars on sidewalks every year. I think we were $400,000 this current budget year on sidewalks and millions of dollars on streets. So I think it's tough, it's frustrating, but it's an effort that we have to do if we want our roads to improve.
What do you think about public transit coming within the city limits of Caldwell and then going kind of across the valley?
Yeah, so a lot of folks like to say smart growth. Every smart growth plan I have seen calls for public transit. I will tell you, my experience with Caldwell and our surrounding area is we don't use it very much. So if someone could figure out what type of public transit that would be, I see a city close to here is selling their one of their buses or trolleys, and that's a pretty big city that seems would have the revenue to make that a go. And so, is Caldwell ready for daily public transportation? I'm just not seeing that right now. Certainly, if we use more public transportation, it takes traffic off the streets. But look, we live in a farm and rural community still. Certainly, it's growing, but we pull into the supply company and throw a hay bale in the back and the kids' bikes, and we're off to the ball game and then home to take care of the animals or whatever. So I just think we're in a culture where we've become accustomed to not having it, and that we often need a different type of transportation based on our lifestyle and our culture in Caldwell.
Gotcha.
So we're not completely opposed to it, meaning Caldwell does participate in some public transportation. It gets debated often every year that it comes up. So we participate in it, but there's certainly some hesitancy to, formalize a larger structure of bus transportation around the city. It just doesn't seem to be working. So
you also have the conflicting problem that you're eligible for grants to improve sidewalks and whatnot around bus stations that you would have to come out of your pocket, if it were just you. So that was something that I spoke with a lot of the council people in Nampa about, because the Councilman Sebastian Griffin was really frustrated with. He was like, "Look, we're spending all of this money, like we're spending $700,000. There aren't enough people utilizing the service to justify that."
Right.
And whether or not you agree with that, there was also the confounding problem that I think they were eligible for like $400,000 in grants or something of that nature to continue improving sidewalks. And they're like, "Well, if we get rid of this, we save the 700. But then we also lose the 400. So it's like, things were balancing out in their minds.
Right. And I think, taking public comment on that, explaining that, listening to the council members. Remember, I truly believe it's a team effort as to what do we want to do? What's the return on investment, right? Now, what I do support is shuttles. So I think people are becoming more accustomed to that. That's what I'm seeing from the rodeo and the C of I games and things of that nature. And with the new hotel coming in, we provided some shuttles.
If you're looking for a trolley, I know a place.
Yeah, my understanding is that the numbers didn't quite work out on that. And that's what...
Shuttle and trolley, they're almost identical. And one has a bell, right?
That's true. Well, you're talking for a shuttle, if we lease those, then that's a one-time expense, right? Versus ongoing expense.
Maybe I should buy the trolley and then just lease it. Are you opposed to the trolley? Is it like just categorically? Because I know a guy who might buy one.
I think it looks cool. I think a trolley looks cool. My worry is the maintenance, and then and then who drives it, right? These are all the things that are missed sometimes. Who drives it, and is it a city employee? And then you have all of those wages and benefits and all of that. And I just contract with Matt's Trolley Co. It just formed, actually, and it's got a great driver. Very chatty dude. That's right. And on top of that, I think with our shuttle system, because it does change often on depending on event, I think we do need to have it to be a more regularly scheduled area and place and how it works. So one year we don't need to say the pickup location is here. Clearly, you may have to shift depending on growth and things of that nature.
Sure.
But we should make it consistent for most of our events so that people know, okay, now in which event do we park to get on the shuttle, right? So not to take up too much time with that, but we need some consistency where this shuttle will run at this event, and these are the hours or the times or the minutes that it will run.
Gotcha. Listen, I know today's a working day. We've covered a lot of things. The last big thing I really want to, ask you about is we seem to be hitting a fever pitch in our country in a broader sense in the way we're addressing each other with communication. And obviously the horrific events of this week, I think are kind of a part of that, which is, it's almost that it's impossible to engage people without categorically dehumanizing them, right? It's like, no, you can't just disagree with somebody. You can't just disagree with their idea. Like, it has to be a personal thing. Do you think there's space within Caldwell to increase the quality and level of communication and bring in a better, kind of atmosphere with dialogue instead of, vitriol?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I think it starts at the top, right? And clearly, I think there's better opportunities for that, is why I'm running for mayor. There have been many, many times where often the council is caught off guard, whether it's on the agenda or we hear it in a coffee shop. I mean, at one point, citizens around the community were getting the agenda, making calls to counselors and saying, what is this on the agenda? And counselors saying, we don't even have the agenda. What are you talking about, right? And so there are tons of ways to improve that communication. And then I think that would help if we work as a team. Clearly, you want to ensure that I'm not talking about things that are forbidden by the law or anything like that. Sure. But certainly sharing. There are some times people within our community that will approach us and know more about a subject, and I think they're shocked when we say, we don't have a clue what you're talking about, or specifically me. Sure. I don't know what you're talking about. And then when we make the phone calls, then it appears that what the citizen was talking about is true or has been discussed. So sure. I think that's some of the frustration. It's all the way around. So council's frustrations come out at times because they don't know, which then I think as the elected officials of the community bleeds over into our community, they can see that frustration as well. So I think you're spot on with, if we can control that better, control our actions better, making accusatory statements when we don't know if what we're saying is true or not. I think the rhetoric does need to tone down and go get both sides, right? Is what I would say. You got to get both sides to every story. I believe that more public communication, more transparency, and I'm not just talking about transparency that politicians like to throw out there. Right. It's where are we going and what are we doing and what meetings are in, and having weekly reports of discussions. And I get that there's non-disclosure agreements. Certainly, if you have a great idea, like a podcast, you may not want to get that out there so that someone else can steal your idea. But you can certainly discuss topics and let the community know what's been talked about and where we're going. One of the things I've recommended numerous times, which doesn't seem to be getting any traction, is just an action items list. It's very tough to keep up with every single thing that pops up in the city, but describing what is the problem, finding out the root cause of the problem, right? Who's in charge of this problem, so that if anyone in the city, or anyone for that matter, wants to know, okay, I have a sidewalk issue, who do I call? And even more specifically, a certain area of sidewalk that's being repaired or done, or a bridge or something more significant like that. And keeping that updated on a weekly basis, right? Now, we've certainly come a long way. We have a public information officer that does a fabulous job of getting information out there. But I think sometimes it's guarding that information, like those silos that I mentioned. We've got to break that, get rid of that, and start letting everyone know what's going on. So, and then I think once your council feels comfortable that is occurring, that will bleed over, right, into our community as well. And they will hopefully, that trust will come back where everybody believes that the information they're getting is the most current and the most valuable information.
Yeah. And the one thing in particular, just again, great on all of that. I talked to a lot of legislators, and I think I did something like 170 interviews in the 90 days of the legislative session. It was a wild time, and I'll probably do like 200 next year because it's primary season anyway. But the one thing is really clear, that it's drinking from a fire hose. You're supposed to make decisions on issues that you're not living on a daily basis. And when people are living, I remember this one gentleman actually was speaking to a legislator in the hallway as I was just passing through, and I was waiting for somebody. And this gentleman was talking to the I believe he was a senator, about the prescription drug prices, generic versus non-generic, all of these. And it was this hugely nuanced thing. Yeah. And ultimately it came down to, when you use insurance with certain drugs, the insurance, the cost with the insurance will actually be greater than the cost if you didn't run your insurance. Like, for some reason, I couldn't remember exactly why. And I was just standing there waiting for somebody, so I heard him talking. Sure. And he was really impassioned about this. And I actually talked to that senator later. I said, hey, that guy in the red jacket, what was he talking about? He went in to explain it. And it was clear that this individual in the red jacket was living this on a daily basis. And he was trying to get the people that make laws around prescription drugs and reimbursement and stuff to understand these nuances. And it's like that with 100 different issues for these elected officials. And again, like, they're supposed to be our best and brightest. And so, like, great, that's why they're there. They're there to absorb them, and they should be expected to understand, and they should be expected to care, like 100%. But I have yet to find or speak with any individual that's an elected official that's like, nah, I got a pretty good handle on everything. It's like,
well, if you find that person, let me know.
Yeah, right. I mean, and again, I've never been an elected official. I never will be. And I can only imagine, just from my own experience of absorbing information, it's like, oh my gosh, man. I talk to people all day, every day, about every single possible issue you could think of. And every day I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything about what's happening. So yeah, man, I think if we, Idahoans in general, if we start recognizing that, yeah, our elected officials should be held to the highest possible standard. We elected, them, they're representing us, and they should understand what we understand. But to assume that they understand at the same level, with the same passion and the same feeling that we do when we're living it, that's something that, at least from the legislative session, really reined me back. It's like, hey man, there's no way. Like, I'm very passionate about several things. And I testified at the legislature this year. It's like, oh, and they don't know anything I'm talking about. It's like, this is the first time they're hearing about it. It's like, how could this be the first time? And then it's like, well, because you're going down this like really specific thing with like tech safety. Like, of course they don't know about that. No. So an interesting problem.
Yeah. And I think, I had some experiences that when I was the captain over alcohol beverage control, a lot of legislators didn't know, you have to go speak to them as if they do know. But it wasn't lost on me that maybe they don't know. So you kind of explain when you need to or try to, but still it's such a convoluted place with very limited knowledge as to who understands Title 23 alcohol code, right, in the state of Idaho. And then to go in and try and explain something that you need done when most people do not live in that world at all.
Right.
Right. And so you make the best decision you can at the time with the information. You've heard this before, with the information you have. Right.
Right.
But I certainly think we should welcome in experts whenever they're there, and not just experts. And an expert can be someone that is living it. Right. So not probably you don't have to be the dictionary definition of expert, but someone that is, like you're saying, living it, touching it, feeling it, dealing with it every day.
Yeah, somebody who runs a resort town restaurant that also serves spirits is going to have a different perspective on the liquor license than somebody who just goes down to the state liquor store, right? Because they know how much it costs them to get that, and they know the designation of how many like toilets are flushing during the on and offs. Like, they know all of these things. Then it's like, try explaining that to somebody in 30 seconds. It's like,
right, or becoming a new counselor, right? You try and learn all that you know. Something has clearly sparked your interest to get in there, the passion for that, right? It's meaningful. And then you get in there and realize, oh, I don't really know much about that. And so Fortunately, there's committees that you can be placed on, which is great. And I did those, as well as it's okay to go to other ones that you're not invited to. So airport, golf board, you can go sit in any of those impact fees, so I could get a better understanding of what impact fees were and what is legal and not legal. I attend those meetings, right? The airport, you can go out to the airport and learn, because a 29-year police officer, I haven't ran many airports. In fact, the number is 0. I've never ran an airport, right?
Right.
But kind of getting to what you've said. So to understand what they're talking about when they come in, there are times that you can take advantage of educating yourself, but something that's very specific is very difficult to do, right?
Right.
And it's often gets into when we hire people from outside with that expertise, like we talked about Mr. Brooks just a little bit ago. Certainly, because who has that expertise on your council? They're all
Right.
from all different walks of life. That clearly isn't what they're doing now because they're on council. I mean, I guess there could be a rarity that someone that did that would also be on your council. And so you look for that expert advice, right? Like, we've never built a city, or taken the next step to expand upon this. We all are from different walks of life.
Right.
So we're going to hire an expert to come in and give us some expertise in that area. So you try and use that. But you are right. There are some things that pop up, which is back to the communication, right? That I think your council could have better communication. In fact, have kicked the can down the road sometimes because we feel there's just something more there. Or give us more time now that we've just found out about this to go ask people to get a better understanding of whatever topic and whatever issue that is. So, so making the best decision you can with the information you have often happens.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you'd like to add here at the end? We've talked about a lot of things.
I just think Caldwell is a great place to live. My kids are thriving there, and we enjoy Caldwell every day. They're very big into the soccer program, and so Caldwell is just a great place to live.
Indeed, sir. Thank you for coming in. Good luck with your campaign, and just good luck.
All right. Thank you.